exciting technologies, exciting business models, and exciting corporations that probably would never have happened if we didn't have this very dramatic situation. So, in order to navigate, I have invited some very interesting people from different walks of lives and companies that from their perspective are looking at how to navigate the future of retail. So I'd like to invite my first panel. First up, Amer from Coop, and Coop has been extremely innovative and doing cool things here with us in Epicenter Store, but also elsewhere. So please, Amer, welcome up on stage. And then we have applause here, which is nice in the morning. Very, very welcome. So please have a seat wherever you like. Next up is Lotta Eriksson. Lotta from Custitude, working with customers and trying to shed light on how our customers actually live and behave. And last but not least, Anne, where are you? Anne from Budbee, that have had, at the least side, a busy year here during COVID, growing like crazy and making sure we get all the things that we usually bought in the store. So starting just first of all, Amer.
Yes.
Coop, and what do you do at Coop, and why are you doing so many cool things here? You have a self-service store without staff and new technology, and a bunch of things are happening. So just
who am I? So my name is Amer Mohammed. I'm the Chief Digital Officer for Coop. And this is a new investment from Coop. It's only 2 years old, my organization. And I mean, it's no secret that Coop has been struggling for the past 40 years. And to say it lightly, but I also, I mean, there is an obvious position to take on the market when it comes to the digital experiences in retail. And my personal belief and Coop's belief is that we can take this space and be leading. And my personal background is from the startup world, so I've bankrupted a few companies, I've sold one. So I like to try things out.
Yeah, it was amazing because when we were going to start Epicenter Store, nobody could come to the store. It was complete lockdown, and they say, "Great, let's open up a self-service store where you just walk in, steal things, and then you pay on the way out." And they did in less than 2 weeks. Decision-making time were very fast, and it's up and running. So thank you very much, Lotta. Custitude.
Yes.
What is Custitude?
Custitude is a company that works with insights from customer, and we usually work with retail, and what we see is that the meeting with a salesperson and the customer or client can affect so many things about sales here and now and the loyalty over time.
And you have mystery shoppers coming out and checking things.
Yes, we do different kind of insight search, but this, what we're trying to do is to help the clients, our clients, with the insights from the customer, the outside and in perspective. Because
and what are some of the trends you see when you sort of look back at how that meeting looks today? Or?
Yes. It's been, these 2 years has been quite crazy in the meeting with physical stores, especially, of course, and the leadership in the stores has been really struggling, and I think now you can see a start when they can do something new. But it's really, I can see that the local stars are so much more important now than before. So it's not like just a company. You want to buy from your local...
Of the individual that you trust.
Yes, it's much more obvious right now.
Yeah, I feel almost like I'm in a club together with the people that actually do physical things. It's like when you're dancing in a basement in Tehran. You shouldn't be doing it, but it's like we were having a good time. But and where do you think that will go? Will the person in the store continue to be the more important, or like almost like an influencer, or will we go back to normal?
Absolutely an influencer, and you can see that in several retail companies right now that the salespersons in the locals are the influencers, they are the live shopping persons, they are so much more than the ordinary salesperson right now. So.
And how should you say hello? Is there any official on that? Should you sort of shake hands, or should you what?
I don't think you should shake hands right now, but I think it's like that's also one trend we can see, that it has to be genuine. You need to mean what you say, and then you can say it in whatever way you want. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, you know, I have a martial arts background, and somebody comes like this to me,
Yes.
I punch on a reflex, so I don't like this fist bumpy
Yes.
thing. Moving Budbee, you must have had a pretty busy year.
We did have a busy year.
Yeah.
Yeah, we grew 200% last year. So
Wow.
we were, I mean, part of it is, of course, that we're still a young company and a growing company, but of course there was a pandemic effect as well.
And what are some of the things that you see? I mean, of course, increased e-commerce, but
Yeah.
are there other sort of less obvious things that you see?
Yeah, but I mean, for those of you who don't know it, Budbee, we work with deliveries for online, for e-commerce. So we collect the parcels from the merchant and we bring it to your home, or then we return it if you don't want it back. And that might sound like very trivial and very boring, but I like to think of it as like the old Pringles commercial, if you can remember that one. Once you pop, you can't stop, because it's really an experience where we've changed things around. And what we see is that people do want to shop online. We've seen the increases in numbers, and that's partly due to the pandemic, but I think it's also partly due to a change in behavior from the retailers, and also a better experience when you actually get your parcels, where you before maybe got an email and a few days later or a week later you might receive a notification that, you know, be home between 8 and 5 and we might deliver your parcel, or maybe not, and you can go and pick it up at a pickup center. But what we've done is that we create transparency. You can actually track your parcel throughout, so it's more similar to when you go into a physical shop and you bring your good back home. You actually have a connection with the parcel throughout, and then you get it to your doorstep in the evening, or to a Budbee box, if that's.
But what is the opportunity or the threat for traditional retail? How can they work with that kind of service enhancement?
I mean, what we see is that the basket size increases when you have a good delivery option. So when you have a Budbee delivery option, the basket size increases. So
Online only or physical store as well? You work with physical
so
stores?
we can track it online, but we also see that there's a great collaboration, for example, with click and collect options in the store, where you can go and touch and feel the goods in the store. You might want to do your purchase through your mobile at home in bed, but then it might maybe convenient for you to go and pick it up in store. So there's this interplay between the different, this omni-channel.
And what do you think will be the new normal there? I mean, all of you, when this sort of rolls back, will it look more like, if I'm saying, this is more like it was before, but some increased e-commerce. Here is something totally different. Retail has changed forever. Where are you in this line, so to speak?
Yeah, just 2 days ago, there was an article in Dagens Industri where we revealed our grand master plan for scan and pay. And, basically you can scan using scan and pay everywhere. And it doesn't matter if it's a Coop store or not. And I think that's the future. You might be in a store, and some things you want to pick with you, some things you want to send home. So it doesn't matter. And I think this is the future, and especially with last mile services like that, I can just say I don't want to pick up this 64 rolls of toilet paper and bring it with me home. I just need the milk right now. So I think that's the future. It's merged together. It's hard to tell what is digital and what is physical.
Wow.
And I can even tell you a story, about every time you want to deal with payments, you have to apply for a permit, and then we said it's a physical payment. But then we got a backlash because they said, but you're paying using the internet. but we're in the store. So it's even the regulations are not even following up, because it's getting mixed together in a grow zone area, and that's the future. It doesn't matter how you jump between channels.
Would you agree to that, or how do you look at what can you add to that?
No, I totally agree, and I think yet another aspect is we say that retail is so international now, that we that we shop internationally, or that the world is so global, interconnected. But when we look at our consumer behavior, we shop from Swedish stores. And that's very much connected to the logistics chain, that how do I go to a Belgian mom and pop store that I found on my vacation and buy goods from them when I'm in Sweden? You don't.
No.
And I think we're going to see so much more of that, like a truly globalized commerce sector.
It's interesting that you say that, because that's what we believed in 97, 96 when we started Boxman. Everything was going to be global. This is the era of the mom and pop shops. At the same time, you saw the Amazons growing more and more, or the Alibabas. Jack Ma was on stage at SIME, our event that we do every year, in I think it must have been '97, and he came up, young guy with a skull on stage, and he said, to B2B or to B2C, that's the question for me. I only have 32,000 internet users in all of China. And everyone's like, wow. And he got a sort of taxi to Arlanda paid and so forth. And then something happened. What do you think about that? Do you think the sort of the big international players will come in and roll over with technology and a global offering? Or do you think, as you're saying, that sort of the mom and pop shop or the smaller shops will have relevance as well?
I mean, I usually think about, if you read about upcoming trends, there's this thing called the metaverse. So I believe that if you look at the internet as a playground, that one is very much dominated by the big players, and there is no chance you can beat them. You have to join them. But we have this new thing called the metaverse, which is at the current state, it's like in the 70s when the first computers sent packages between each other. So it's very, very early stage. But this is the new playground that is being built. And examples like pop-up stores and stuff like that. In this metaverse, which is a mix between augmented reality and virtual reality, anyone can pop up any store anywhere. And I think that if you want to create something, you shouldn't try to beat the ones that have already taken control of the current playground. You should look at the next playground. And
but that's what you're doing in a sense. You're creating an experimental store, and you're experimenting things like that. I mean, I worked in the industry for as long as I can remember. I haven't seen Coop as such an innovative or forward-looking player before, and now you're all over the place. In a good way. I mean, what changed that leadership and what changed the attitude?
I mean, first of all, you need to have a CEO, and a co-F in this case who owns Coop, willing to, okay, fuck it, all in, So that's the first.
That's a great strategy.
Yeah, it's a great strategy. I mean, you have nothing more to lose. Everyone knows that, ICA is the dominant player and so on. So, where else can we take position? And in this case, they bring in someone crazy to run this new organization, and complete trust, and just fail faster than everyone else. That's the only. There is no master grand plan. It's not that we have higher IQ than anyone else and knows exactly.
No, but you're
what to
doing
do.
it, and kudos for that. And I mean, we built this whole environment based on trying to find people that try things. And
I mean, at the end of the day, I get this question a lot. How can you be so brave? I mean. Minesweepers are brave. I mean, what we do is mess around with buttons and milk and ketchup. I mean, you need to have some perspective. My wife is a doctor, she works with the emergency patients and COVID.
Yeah, no, but that's
brave.
That's an interesting perspective. My dad, who is paralyzed, by the way, he's happy and paralyzed. And I was sitting in I think April when COVID started. I was like, 200-something events cancelled. I speak in Montreal, cancelled. I have houses that I rent out Mediterranean, cancelled. It's like, what the hell's going on? This is the toughest, most transformative. He said, yeah. I grew up in the Second World War. That was pretty transformative also. And perestroika, we had businesses in Russia. That also kind of shook. And I'm like, sorry, Dad. And I think that leadership also is about not being sort of sad, happy, but try to have a take on things. And how do you see leadership have been developing or changing, or maybe your own leadership during this period?
But it's so interesting because we're talking about these transactions or relations, and it's so much easier to do the transactions right now. You can do it in different ways. And then the situations where you really have the relation with people, it's so important. And I think it's like in the perspective of leadership, you have to make sure that the relations you actually have with the customer, where you actually meet them, because they are much more rare now than before. They need to be really good, and the leadership in that, it's so important now to be able to coach people to actually have the relation somehow, but also to not see the transactions or the development as something that is bad for the salesperson. So I think they really need to develop that.
That they get empowered rather than displaced.
Yes, and I think that's a big thing right now, that you need to teach all the salespersons and give them time to learn the technology or whatever you have in the stores, because it has to be a tool. And if it's not, then you will have a problem right now.
And this is unscripted. You don't know what I'm going to say right now, but we are actually starting. We're starting an influencer academy for store staff, because we've heard that as well. Especially some like Kronans apotek, they become local rock stars. You don't go to the apotek, you go to Aisha who works there.
Yes.
And it's
you can see that everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like you really.
So we're going to try to get them and then get the best influencers,
Yes.
and then have a school to train staff, because that's exactly where we see that the store can drive a unique value.
Yes.
I think another perspective to that, and also tying on to what you were saying about B2C or B2B, I mean, I think C2C from that way is also going to come a lot more, where we see not only the store managers, but also other consumers becoming influencers and affecting people's behavior. Having social shopping, so we've seen live shopping with influencer, but also social shopping, where you have communities of friends or loosely connected people that gather around a topic of interest and share links and information about
Oh,
goods.
you're back to your WhatsApp here. You told me
I
before
mean,
that-
I refer to myself as an example where I realized that my own shopping behavior has changed over the years, where I have different WhatsApp groups with friends where we talk about children's products or home decoration products, and we share links and information, and then I'm already in my mobile. I'm already in sort of the feeds and the organisms where I can do my shopping and compare prices and compare goods. So it's this whole infrastructure of connecting social information, price comparison, transportation. Yeah, I think that's really gonna happen.
And what do you think the role of the influencer will be? Because they've been very inflated. A few of them get very, very handsomely paid, and then it's sort of. Do you think that will last, or is that a fad, or do you see that live shopping with influencers is something that is going to be part of the future shopping experience? Or
I think so, but I think how we define an influencer might change. Who is an influencer might change, and what values an influencer bring. For example, sustainability is something we talk a lot about, and if you are doing shopping, make sure to do it in a sustainable way. Make sure that the transports you use are sustainable, and I think that we're going to see. Rather than just the glossy surface, we're going to have more information as well. I think people are looking for more information.
Coming back, we're sitting at 2 years from now, fully vaccinated since long. Is this whole pandemic, is this going to be like the year 2000 bug, where everybody was like, and then it's like you didn't think about it very much because the world didn't stop? Or are we going to look back and say, this is when all of these things changed? Would we look back and say this destroyed retail, like vinyl sales when the CD came, or CDs when Pirate Bay came, or is it going to be something that evolved the industry?
Evolved, for
Yeah,
sure.
I also believe so.
Yeah, and why do you
Definitely.
believe that? I mean, it's nice to believe that, but why?
I mean, it opens up for new opportunities, and I mean, it's easy to if you're I don't know what it's called in English, but if you're a horseshoe maker, and then the car comes, that doesn't mean that the industry for fixing things is destroyed. There's just other things to fix.
Yeah.
And we have to think like that. Otherwise, the world will panic every time something new comes. And try things out, not be afraid. And I actually just got an idea when you spoke about the social shopping thing, because that's something we will be wanted to test. And I know I shouldn't say this because everyone is like, oh, ideas and so, but I come from the startup world, and I know that an idea means nothing without execution. So one thing that we're thinking about is, because when you scan and pay, the camera's on, and we were thinking about recording your shopping, and then you can, share it with your followers and stuff like that, and others can follow you and buy the same thing.
And just click on the same video.
Yeah.
I'll get cool.
So stuff like that, and that's opportunities.
Yeah, but the data gives you that. Instagram has completely figured me out. So they do this super cool suit, far-fetched.
Yeah.
$3,000. No way. Little bit further on,
Yeah.
see friend of mine or somebody or celebrity wearing similar type of thing.
Yeah.
Some days later, cheap Chinese version of it. Almost nothing. It's calling my name. Yeah. But if there's anything, then things are looking good today. They're going to look even better in the future. What do you lose sleep over? What are some of the things that you feel like?
Oh, I can't say that I'm losing sleep, to be honest.
No.
We're not doing something that important. In terms of, you lose sleep over the risk of someone dying, in my world at least. That's what I would lose sleep over, but not my work. That's not my kind of work, to be honest.
No, I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can't think about
I mainly
it.
lose sleep over my kids, but apart from them, I think that the environment is something that we think a lot about. And we work with transports, and we are very happy to have almost 100% fossil-free transports in Sweden and Finland, and on our way in the other countries. But it is something that we need to think about, and we are part of a consumer world. So how do we communicate responsibly and act responsibly at the same time as catering to people's needs, because people still have a need to buy groceries or clothes or furniture for their homes. So how do you balance that?
Yeah, and I would agree, and I think that there's too much polarization. Everybody's against the bad companies with a lot of sustainability impact, but we're all consumers of the same companies. We're the waters are being polluted. We're 60% water.
Yeah. It's not black and white.
It's not black and white.
You see all these, now someone is doing a concert with these famous people, and of course these famous people need to fly in, and stuff like that. So it's, you need to in the era of fake news and all that, you need to, get educated.
But it's also, I think that this has proven to me that we're so much more affected by narrative than we believed before, maybe. And there's a need for a new narrative in retail, and I think it's shaping. I see the contours of it, because before it was like, retail is going to the retail death. What a bad name for an industry to call itself. its future, right? Yeah. And now, as you're saying, there will be very different ways of succeeding, but you have to be curious and try new things.
Yeah, it's more of a rebirth of retail, not.
Yeah, and I think a trend that we can see clearly in fashion is, of course, sort of the conversation about the end of seasons. That we're not going to have, every season is going to be a new collection, but that we're going to have, these are example goods that we will sell them season after season, and then we might change them a bit over time, but we're not going to launch a new series every spring and every autumn.
No, but that comes back to logistics as well, because I was been in the fashion industry quite a lot, and if you place an order you place the order in August, you get it in January.
Yeah.
If you would have it faster, you wouldn't have to have the seasonality.
Yeah.
So last question, what's most exciting right now?
Yeah, for me, it's the closest thing is the platform strategies. So we are thinking a lot about, and I say this sometimes to my boss and the co-F, and they always hate me for it. But I believe that it's not important what it says on the package, if it's Coop, ICA or Willys. It's more important that we know when the customer needs the milk. So, and that's my secret strategy.
Great. No, it's going to be very cool to follow, and happy and proud to be partners of you guys up here. If you haven't seen it, come by and try Scan and Pay and see what happens. It's actually a before and after experience. That's for sure where a lot of stores are going to go.
I would say it's all about the customer and what they want and need, and you need to start much more to listen to the customer, because there's been so many companies before that been working like inside out. So we need to find ways to the whole organization needs to listen to the company or the customer for real. And I think it's also about making people happy somehow, making the customers happy. And I think you can do it in several different ways. You can make it easy for like a transaction if you want toilet paper or ketchup, But it's also about these relations, or if you can do something, send something in a proper way that feels good for you, and then you make people happy. And I think that's important for real.
No, but I see a trend there. Maybe it's only me. It's not scientific, but that people are treating me a little bit differently in customer supports and in other things. I mean,
How?
no, but for instance, I had a break-in in my car. They took my bag. They took a bunch of things. I have a friend who makes jewelry. He had given me some fairly expensive things, and I didn't have receipts on things. And I call up my insurance company. And usually it's like, no, go to hell, read the fine print. And I said, Google me. Do I look like somebody that steals from you? And just snoop around a little bit. I haven't claimed anything for the last 30 years. And he's like, no, it doesn't make sense that you're a thief. Here's the money. I didn't have any receipts. They just send in the money. They wouldn't have done that. There's a human on the other side.
Yes.
I'm going to do some surgery. And they're like, oh, there's an opening here. It must be painful to not have done that. I'll fix for you. It's like, is this...
It's about being friendly.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think there's something different, because that's the only forum you can be friendly with the customer, as you said before. So maybe a nice
Great.
trend.
Happy. Happy trend.
Yeah, no, but I would say it's a combination of what you guys been saying. Sort of like start with the consumer experience. What's troublesome? What's difficult for the consumer in the online shopping experience, and then look at what we can do with platforms and interconnecting people and just trying to make it easier for people to have a good life.
Good. So with that, I will introduce Linus. Linus is, apart from being breathtakingly handsome, a great DJ, great technologist and entrepreneur, he's also part of running Epicenter Store here. You're also online with some of our dear...
I am, and trying to get the discussion going. I know it's early, but it has moved on.
Any questions that
yeah,
you
we
would like
do.
to
I
add?
have one question to Amer. What do you believe is the presence and future of unmanned store solutions?
I mean, I can only speak for our experience. So we have an unmanned store that we tried in Gävle, I think it is. And that one failed miserably. But what we learned from that is that hybrid stores is more popular and a better return of investment. So, you know, in some areas, you know, you might have personnel during certain hours, but then, you know, it doesn't make sense to have personnel between 6 and 10 in the evening. And then it can be unmanned. So that worked better.
What do you see as like the next step of scan and pay? What will, after you have scanned, what will be, where is it going?
I mean, eventually we would like to scan everything. So it doesn't matter if it's a H&M sweater or if it's, you know, whatever you need, you should be able to scan.
Okay, and pay.
Okay, exactly.
Last question, and then we need...
Yeah, we can do one to Lotta. Working with customer insights, as you do on a regular basis, what do you see that most companies fail on?
We usually measure the meeting with the salesperson and the customer, and what they mostly fail on, actually in Sweden at least, is to make any action to the customer at all. So you can see like 4 out of 10 people that goes into a physical store never talks to a salesperson. So I would say that's number one, to start with that, and then you can continue with the relationship.
Yeah, and a short follow-up on that. Now when transaction is like moving away from the meeting of the employees, where do you see like the next conversation will happen? Because that has been, especially in Sweden, where the conversation has happened. Now we're taking away the transaction moment.
So then it's much more about the relation. So you need to be able to do the loyalty movement and use the salesperson for the loyalty movement. Then it's much more about meeting the client somehow.
I see.
It's like if you come to a restaurant, you have a maître d', or you have somebody that meets you and hey, welcome, come to somebody's dinner, you have that.
Yes.
But in the store, sometimes it's like people are snooping and looking at you. Is it time to grab you now or not? And I feel intimidated.
But then at
almost,
least you look at me, and the most common is that the salesperson doesn't do that.
Interesting. We got to move on.
Yes, yes.
There'll be more questions later. Thank you very much, and good luck. Not that you seem to be needing it, but very interesting.
Thanks.
The next speaker, who is getting mic'd up here, he is no stranger to being on stage. He's actually one of the world's best magicians. He's won talent, he's filled arenas from Australia to Stockholm, but his second passion is that he can make robots do almost anything. And in his view of the future, the robot is not just going to be like a computer that can do certain things or something you can play with. It's actually the basis for the new app store. So think of how many people you know that are talking about a new app for their mobile phone or companies developing apps. What if we all would have robots? What's a robotic app? Is it that you teach one robot Spanish with your app and then all the other robots can speak Spanish with that robot? Or how will this play out? What will lead the way? Is it games? Is it the naughty industry? Or is it even retail, where retail robots are seeing the first applications coming out in stores? So without further ado, magician, robotic genius, Charlie Caper.
Oh, thank you, Ola. Hello, folks. Yeah, my name is Charlie Caper, and I'm from FurHat Robotics. And I would like to talk a little bit about the potential of social robots in the future of retail. So we make a social robot, you can see here on the slide, and it's a robot you can communicate with the same way you would communicate with a human. So the robot can see, hear, and understand what you're saying. And it can also express emotion and see emotion. So if a customer walks up to the robot will see that they're there. They can look them in the eye and say, "Oh, hello." And if the person smiles, the robot can see that they're smiling and smile back, which really creates a good connection. Someone else shows up, it can see them, and it can separate these two people and say, "Oh, do you people know each other?" So this is the level of social awareness that is possible now. The company is born out of a research project at KTH about 10 years ago, and it's founded by a couple of professors and PhDs. And we have a fairly wide customer base, lots of academic customers, academic institutions, and innovation departments, but also a wide array of interesting use cases. We have done a medical screener in collaboration with Merck, and Deutsche Bahn have experimented with putting our robot in airports to give people information. I think this image is from a train station in Japan. There's a company called Tengai, very interesting, here in Sweden, that makes unbiased interviews. And they have used a robot to make more than 1,000 actual real-life job interviews. So a fairly serious subject within a high-stakes situation. I will get, by the way, to how this can be used in retail in a little second. And on the other side of the spectrum, we have collaborated with Bandai Namco to turn one of their characters into life in a theme park. So why social robots? I think, and I'm pretty sure most of you people think too, that in the next 5, 10, 15 years, we will see more robots of this kind out in the wild. If you go to a train station and you need information, right now you're in a hurry. It's hard to find any place where you can find information. And when you get there, if there's a queue, it's very annoying and kind of stressful. And I'm pretty sure in 10 years there will be a couple of robot information booths in a train station that can inform you, and they will have access to all the data that people have access to on their websites. So they will know when the trains leave, where they leave from. They probably will not be able to answer questions about the meaning of life, but they will be able to offload the work of the regular staff. And there's many reasons why this should be a robot and not a chatbot or a Siri on a screen. And one reason is that the physical world is special. If you go on a date or read a kid a bedtime story on Skype, that can be a good experience, but it's not the same as being in the same room. something that happens when we share a physical space. And there's a lot of research that shows that an interaction is much more engaging, both emotionally and cognitively, if it's with a robot than with an agent on a screen. Also, you can see who the robot is talking with. The reason I put my picture on the slide here is that on a painting or something that's flat on a screen, if you're standing here and you feel like it's looking at you, then someone standing here also feels like it's looking at them. It's called the Mona Lisa effect. And you can imagine if 3 people are trying to talk with something on a screen, and that is talking to them, and they all feel like it's talking to them. So it becomes quite confusing. With a robot, you can see where it's looking, and it can refer to things in the room because it's existing in the physical space. So if you have products, it can say, oh, and down here is the socks. Like it can refer to things. Okay, so how could social robots be used in retail? I'm not a retail expert, but this is something that I have thought about a lot. And firstly, it can help answer those simple questions like, where are the socks? How much is this? And in a store with 1 or 2 employees, when you get there and you need to ask a simple question. If there's someone in front of you, they bought something 3 weeks ago, they lost the receipt, they're trying to return it, that's going to take a while. And it's quite annoying to not have that quick way if you just have a very simple thing you need to solve. And the robots will really be able to help there. They're not going to replace the staff, but they're going to offload them and support them in different ways. And they will also just be able to say, I can't do this. You need to talk with a human. And maybe sometimes the human can say, ask the robot. It knows exactly how many of those we have in stock. So it can also help make high-tech retail more accessible, because retail is getting more high-tech. 10 years ago, we got these automated checkout lanes. And now we're getting unmanned stores where there's not a person in it. And this can be quite alienating for some customer groups, like the elderly or tourists, people that aren't used to it. And here, having a robot there that you can talk to that can explain how this works can really help bridge that gap for those customer groups. It will also help you collect better data. I'm sure that several times I've been in stores and I've asked someone, can you pass this information up the chain because this thing is really working or this thing is not working? I'm very sure that information never reached anyone. And this way you can check what kind of questions did people ask the robots in these 6 stores during August. And it also means you could A/B test and find out what answers actually work in different cases. A robot can speak many languages. Out of the box, a FurHat can speak and understand 35 languages. So this is also another aspect, especially as the world is getting more and more international. And you get this instant information sharing. Once a robot knows something, then all the robots in your entire network knows it. If you want to pass down information to employees in a store, I guess you send an email and then someone has to read that and then they have to tell the employees. And that's not instant. And with robots, you could send it out instantly. And then we have these order use cases. Last autumn, me and 2 colleagues experimented with putting a head into a mannequin. And I think it would be pretty cool to walk into a clothing store and you could discuss the clothes the mannequins are wearing. Do you have that jacket in large, or how much are the shoes? So that's also an interesting use case. While also those mannequins could tell you where the socks are. So what are we waiting for? How come we're not seeing social robots out in the world now? And if you had asked me 10 years ago when FurHat was funded, then we would be waiting for the technology. This is something that has happened in the last 5 or 10 years, the possibility to even do this. But now we're kind of there, at least for the more simple use cases. So now we're just waiting for the first movers, essentially. And I'm pretty sure once some larger entity starts to use social robots in retail, the others will follow. And if you want to project that you are high-tech and part of the future, I don't know many better ways than putting a couple of robots that the customers can talk with in there. Yep, that was it for me.
Thank you very much, and we will be
Thank
back
you.
for questions
Oh,
later
yeah.
on.
I will see you in the future, which is actually in 20 minutes when there's another panel.
Exactly. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Do you have the clicker? Yes. That's actually quite funny because with robots, it's kind of before and after moments. They had a kindergarten having robots in Japan instead of just having teachers. And the weird thing was that the kids liked the robots more, but the colleagues and parents liked the robots more as well, because they never got grumpy. They could rewind and the parents could see situations, and they never got tired of showing the same Disney movie. So it's quite interesting which role these robots will have. In my life, VR robots have changed my life. I've been a martial artist. You get beaten up every training. It's not a very good quality life. Now it's in VR, so I can box with Dolph Lundgren every evening. I can be at Madison Square Garden and I don't get any bruises. So it's, you're seeing these applications evolving thanks to technology. And we're seeing, in the same sense, technologies are evolving in the retail space. One of the coolest new companies, a venture that was created and co-created with intrapreneurs rather than the traditional entrepreneurs. It's sitting here actually in Epicenter, and it comes out of H&M, and Erik Östling is going to tell you about StoreLens. So please take it away.
Great.
Clicker here.
Thanks, Ola. So, you all have a favorite store, right? I lived in London for 5 years, and when I had a Saturday by myself, I had one place that I often visited, and it was the Ralph Lauren flagship store on New Bond Street. Have you ever been to a Ralph Lauren store? Then you know that it's like an experience nothing like anything else. And walking into this store, it was like walking into the mind of Ralph Lauren himself. You had all these amazing collectibles, old polo sticks, amazing flower bouquets, scents and perfumes, and it was just like an escape for me. So, it makes me really sad when I realize and read in the papers that retail is hurting, and it's even before the pandemic, we could see that traffic was dropping to stores, that some of the most iconic American retailers went bankrupt and had to close down. So that's one of the reasons why I joined StoreLens. And let me see here. That's the one. Okay, so I'm gonna. Now you see the store. So one of the StoreLens purposes is to make retail relevant again. And we believe that the best way of doing this is to combine the best of digital and the best of stores. So combining these two and create an experience, where you bring all the best things about store, but also make the best things about digital available. So we are a platform for in-store solutions. And most of our products are developed to be used in the customer phones. So by using the phone, scanning a barcode in the fitting room, maybe to get some help or assistance, or scan an item to get additional information, to see things. And one of the good things that we have is that we are a no hardware company. So our vision is that, we develop our products into the customers' phones. That makes us really fast, and that makes us always be able to give our latest products to the customers, and make sure that they are always running on the latest version, and that they are always updated. And it also makes us very fast in launching new things. I think it was interesting when I heard during the retail day, Amer talked about the Coop mission statement and how it was to make the customer's life more simple. And I believe that this is what we do as well. But since we are not selling ketchup and toilet paper, our customers are selling fashion. Our mission is a little bit more fashion-like. So we would like every customer that enters a store to feel like a superstar. And our view of this is that when you walk into a store, you should get a warm welcome, maybe get greeted by your name. And when you look for products, you want to have all the information about that product. Scan the item, get all this information that's available to you online, and that we've seen is very important when it comes to making a decision for purchasing or not. So where the product is made, what it's made of, maybe even who made it, how you're going to take care of it, etc. So, and we also want the customer to, when you walk into a store and you find something you really want and they don't have it in your size, or you want to know if they have it in another color, this should just be a click away. We also know that all the customers have different preferences. So it's reasonable to have an experience that's tailored towards every customer. So if you enter a store and scan an item, one customer might want to know if it's discounted, while another one wants to know if it's, what it's made of, if it's sustainable, or if it's, the latest trend, etc. And we're the same with the rewards. So some customers, they would like to get a discount at a till, but another customer might want to have 1 hour with a personal shopper. So we also believe, just like Coop and Amer mentioned earlier, that the transaction is moved away from the tills and into the customer's phones. And when you're at that stage of the transaction, you should be able to choose whether you want to take your garments home straight away, whether you want to maybe leave it in the store and pick it up later, or if you just want to have it sent home later, maybe using Budbee. So, but to be able to make store staff superstars, or customer superstars, we need to empower store staff. And when customers are starting to scanning items in store, we start to collect data about the customers. And together with online, we can actually, for the first time, get a 360-degree view of how the average customer is behaving in store, and we can react towards that. We also believe that when you take away some of the traditional store tasks, like re-tagging for a local campaign, or standing in the till, managing transactions, when those tasks are moving into the customer phone, the store staff will have more time to give the customer the attention they deserve. We also know that all stores are working with clear goals and KPIs, and when we can deliver real-time KPIs to the store staff so they can manage or to see how they are performing during any time of the day, basically. And to visualize this a little bit, I'm going to show you 2 examples of customers that we have today. So in October last year, we launched an app together with Monkey. And the app is an app where the customer can scan garments to unlock the world of Monkey. Sometimes it's a discount, sometimes it's something exciting on news or information about the product. In the app, the customers can also interact with the store staff. So just what we heard earlier in the panel, that the local store is becoming more important, and that, for example, the staff become influencers and can communicate to the Monkey customers through the app. But it's also a community where the customers can communicate and interact with each other. So if someone has a question about the fit for a garment, or the discussions can continue in there. And even though we had a pandemic and the store staff didn't approach any customers, we had 30,000 downloads of the app, and we could see that the customers using the app were spending a lot more than the customers not using the app. Another benefit that we saw that we didn't expect from the beginning was that we could see that the app drew traffic to online, and that these customers that came from store through the app to online had a much higher conversion rate than traditional online customer. And we're also very excited to share that we later this fall will launch a self-checkout where the customer can check out in their phones and where the alarm tags will be automatically deactivated. So as a customer, you could actually just walk into store, buy or scan things, put it into your basket, check out, and then just leave. So something that we believe will be something that we'll see in most stores in just a couple of years. Another customer of ours is Weekday, and this is a project that's very, personally, I'm very passionate about, and it's a resale as a service product of ours. So for those of you who don't know about resale is when customers sell their used things in store and they get a commission on the price. So why is this relevant then? So according to Forbes, resale is growing 11 times faster than traditional retail. And I read somewhere, can't remember where, but they believe that 50% of everything sold in the US by 2050 will be used garments, used things. So it's also, in my world, the true sustainable way to go. It's when you buy vintage things that have already been made. And we also see that the younger generation, they shop much more vintage, and it's very important for them to be part of a singular society or a sustainable society. And for store staff, it's also a great way to make them curators of the assortment rather than just sellers. So if you want to know anything more about StoreLens, feel free to get in contact.
Thank you very much. Just one, can you say anything about the numbers? Because I heard some numbers when you played around and they were quite staggering in the increased sales.
I can say that it's around double the purchase of a normal customer in store.
So you let that sink in. Just by having an app, you double sales from these customers. So there's a lot of apps out there that promises things like that, but the tests so far of these guys are just staggering. And it sort of captures what we've been hearing here before. It is a customer journey that is much more genuine, relevant, it's there for everyone, and it's on the customer's terms. So it's a smart use of technology, but I'm also very proud that it's happening around here and that it's a very large company creating a very small company to service not only their own businesses, but in an extension, other businesses as well. Next, we'll go to somebody who is actually heading up Weekdays, which are having the stores, having these problems, having survived and comes guns blazing out of the pandemic. And I'm very interested to hear how Managing Director Kim Holm reflects on the questions at hand. So please, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Ola.
The clicker is gone.
Hi, everyone. Oh, great. Thanks. That's a good thing. Otherwise, I'll just jump back one slide to Erik's presentation because we were also featured there, right? Let's see. Here we go. First slide. So my name is Kim, Managing Director for Weekday. I've been in this position very shortly, like 6 months maybe. But I've been with the company for a really long time, 17 years. We have a pretty long history, which I will share with you shortly. But just if you don't know who we are, we see ourselves as the creative collective. We want to be the street/fashion brand by and for creatives. I'll jump these through because we're going to get to the really interesting part connected more to these days shortly. Our purpose is celebrating creativity, and our vision is to become the go-to street fashion brand for the young generation. Our customers are the creative, open-minded, and forward-thinking people of the young generation, a primary target of 20 to 30 years old. But of course, you can also be young at heart, which I know many of you are as well. So these are some of the milestones. Like I mentioned, I've been working with the company for 17 years. The company actually started almost 20 years ago. It was founded by 3 entrepreneurs back in the early 00s. We actually founded Cheap Monday 2004. And that's when I started working. I lived with Örjan Andersson, who was one of the founders' girlfriend at that time in a really small apartment. So I've been with through this whole journey. It's been many ups and downs, a continuous journey because, things has happened really, really fast. But we were acquired by H&M, so we're part of this big, amazing group. We were acquired in 2008, and then fully 100% in 2010. And so much has happened then. One thing that really enabled us since we were acquired is, of course, expansion. We have grown into 16 markets. We have 58 stores at the moment. We have grown into wholesale, which we started in 2014 with ASOS. We're on Zalando. This year we also launched our offer at the About You platform. And we also launched our online sales in 2013, which is that's only 8 years ago. Isn't that incredible that we did not have online sales before then? It's just crazy. So a lot of things has happened. In 2015, we also launched our first sustainability initiative around organic cotton on our jeans, which we've had since then. And we also were 100% recycled on our swimwear since 2017. We set a goal to be 100% sustainable or recycled materials by 2030, and we're actually already at 99%. And that's not a lot of retailers that are at that amount so far. And I thought I would bring that up because there's also, since Retail Day and today in the discussions, we know we have to do better in terms of sustainability. So I really wanted to lift that as well. And I will share some of the later milestones that we've had because a lot has happened since the pandemic broke out. And we've done so many great new initiatives like the resale launch with StoreLens. So we'll share more about that. Yeah, just some pictures of where we're at right now to get you more of a feel of Weekday, our brand, and how our stores looks like. Store is still a huge part of retail. It was really, when the pandemic hit, it was, of course, crisis management deluxe for quite some time. We were fortunate to have these three legs, both of wholesale and online and stores to stand on. So we actually managed pretty well. And it was so many interesting learnings that we took at that time. And it's wonderful to see the openings of these stores, the reopenings in all these different markets at the moment. Because you can also see where we have a large physical availability, we also have a really high share of online sales. Since I also have can be fortunate to compare, for instance, with other brands within our amazing group. So a case for change. And this is going back to sort of the Retail Day and what we're all here to discuss and talk about. But with digital tech as a catalyst, we have new customer needs and new customer behaviors. And we need to create compelling experiences, value-adding products and services, and build an emotional bond with our customers. One really hot topic for us right now, wholesale share increased a lot for us during the pandemic, of course, with the stores closed. But what happens if we don't own the relationship with the customer anymore? That's something we talk deeply about a lot at the moment. So we will have sort of financial creativity or financial security, but not we were not sort of going to be creative enough, maybe, because that's not going to lie in our hands anymore if we don't own the relationship. So what does that mean, for instance, for the stores? We've also spent a whole year now trying to rethink the purpose and meaning of the store. What will that look like in the future? Because if you can get anything you want at sort of a really low price and a really fast pace from anyone, anywhere, what does that mean for us? So I think, and this is from one of us. We also closed stores. Of course, a lot of retailers do. Not all of them survive, which is super sad. And I took that with me from one of the lectures. I went to Hyper Island 4 years ago. Existing business model will disappear when they create fundamental conflicts with customers' best interest. And I just think so. But what then is the purpose of the stores? And we think now that but just also as in a really important way, we need to redo things. We also need to rethink how we do them. And we're using a model called Blue Ocean Strategy. If you're not familiar with it, look it up. It's amazing. The book is amazing. And we use this really cool tool that they also offer for free online, which is called the Eliminate, Reduce, Raise, and Create. Because we'll need to create a major leap in value, but also at a lower cost share. Because we cannot just pour money into this channel and just sort of, so what's going to happen? So I think we're just now rethinking and eliminating things. What don't we need to do in a similar sort of standard as the industry? What could we sort of reduce our standards at? But what maybe do we need to raise, and what could we create that doesn't exist there yet? That's our approach. And we've done some tests. I think we need to be super brave, super experimental, like we've talked about in these panels as well. So we've done some tests, and this is sort of where we are right now, and that's what I wanted to share. So before, there's no sound, right? But that doesn't matter. Before the pandemic, we did something called design events in our store. We want to be the creative collective, and we wanted to like get the customers involved and be hands-on and see sort of in real life what was happening. That wasn't possible anymore, so we started something with Studio May, but that has even made us improve this offer even more. And going forward, we believe that we can really connect locally with creative, the networks of creators locally in the stores and do more stuff like this going forward. Like Erik mentioned, we also launched a local curated secondhand collaboration with them during this period, which started off sort of also as a really exciting project where we just wanted to learn more about, it was a couple of years ago, sort of what's important to our customers, because it is really about the customer, but not just about the experiences, but what's important to them. How do they want to be remembered? What are their values? And we found in those sort of interviews, we did deep dive interviews, that one of the themes that came out was that they really want to contribute to society and they want to belong to something. So we had this really small test. We started with flea markets in our stores, just enabling the customers to sell their clothes for free in a special event. The first day we did that, the sales increased with like 50% compared to the year before on our own garments, because the traffic was huge. The engagement was magical. So then we thought, but okay, how can we make that permanent? This obviously creates a lot of engagement with our customers. And if you see people, from a Weekday store, having Weekday bags coming out, and you see, where are they now during the pandemic, standing in line to go? It's to a second-hand store. Because sort of it's so close to what they feel is important, and how important style is as well, because that's a really important part. As a third project that we launched this year, this was in April. Here we have music. We launched something called Body Scan Jeans. We have built up also in Stockholm on Götgatan. We've built up a booth where you can scan yourself in collaboration with a company called Unspun, and we can produce jeans on demand. It takes about 1.5 to 2 weeks to get your jeans. And you who are actually sitting here, you're in Stockholm, you should go there and try it and get your perfect jeans, exactly according to your need. Götgatan. Just go do it. It's amazing. They fit perfectly, and there's no overproduction of anything. And we also, during spring, launched another collaboration with Slile. It's a really small startup in Denmark. They only exist in Denmark so far. But we really want to lean in and test new things. And one thing that we think could be really exciting in the future is tech, enabling the stores, like Lotta talked about earlier, enabling the store staff to really spend more time talking about important things and being really genuine and personal. And tech, we believe, can be a true enabler of that. And this specific app not only sort of enables the customer to do their self-checkout using their phone, it's connected to a specific tag that's also with Bluetooth, so it's detached. But then through the Slide platform, the customers can also shop from home and from the store and get it delivered within 3 hours. So we have sort of the last mile delivery. And I know for those of you who I spoke to Ann previously, she's like, you have the worst deliveries online. I said, I know. But this one, we have so many new exciting things. No, but it's, I think that we just need to really lean in at the moment. We really need to experiment. We need to put customers in focus first and foremost, and learn and test and try and fail and try again. And that was it. Thank you.
And please stay, Kim and Charlie. Magically appear here again, and Erik as well. Well, first of all, I think that is excellent, and you're. I'm seeing another trend as well. If you see Amer, or you see you, Erik, or you as well, you're somewhere in the borderline between entrepreneur, magician, and intrapreneur. But they're intrapreneurs leading the way now. people are much less interested in a startup competition with a lot of people waving their hands and eating noodles, and very little comes out of it. I don't know if I shared that before, but 4% of all startups are doing 5 million crowns or more after 3 years. 0.4 are doing 100 million crowns after 5 years. So it's easier to become a rap star than to become a scale-up entrepreneur. But when entrepreneurs do things and have that happy, psychotic, stare in the eye, a lot of things are happening. So how do you drive that in your organizations? How do you get others to get on the bandwagon and have the same willingness to try, or as Amer said, fail faster than anybody else, and then he looked very happy?
Should I start?
You go for it.
I think that just opening up to the possibilities, asking better questions is a really exciting tool, and be really passionate and excited yourself, and just go to the teams, because I don't have the answers. I mean, all of this comes from them, but ask more inspirational questions maybe about future, about looking beyond on what could be, sort of try and pick up new signals about what could build into new possible futures. That's exciting, and that's, I think, how it spreads also.
But you also need to challenge chosen truths quite a lot.
Yes, definitely. And I think that the pandemic also helped us to do that in a really magnificent way, because we needed to rethink everything we did. We couldn't do anything the normal way anymore. But then we realized we don't actually have to do anything like we did before. And that just opened up a whole new way of doing things and possibilities.
It's so fantastic. With the restaurant that we have here, Kmart, they are, K-märkt in Swedish, they are challenging the chosen truth in restaurant. And what's that? That there's a menu. They don't have a menu, so they can call the suppliers the day before and say what's great tomorrow, not good 2-3 days from now, and then they DJ food that nobody's ever eaten before based on what's there, and the chefs think it's super fun, and they have much higher margins and so forth. So it's like challenging these chosen truths. I think that's an interesting theme. And Erik, what chosen truths are you challenging with StoreLens?
I mean, I think it's what I mentioned earlier, that the stores have become irrelevant and impersonal. So we want to challenge that by, offering tools to empower staff and to the customers to remove everything that's negative about store. Waiting in line, not finding your things that you want, and so on. Yeah.
And from retail day, what are some of the things that you picked up, sort of trends or elsewhere that you think that we should be aware of? What are the things that are coming at us like a freight train, but that everybody in retail should think about?
No, I really liked the presentation from Bambooser, and I think this, that way of shopping it appeals to me, and I think it appeals to many customers, because there's so many different things out there right now. It all looks the same, or a lot of it looks the same. You really need to understand why a garment is special. And the best one to tell you this is, someone that knows a lot about that. So you could communicate that through text like you do on a website, but to have, your local store staff telling you about this, and maybe have it available if you scan a garment, I think that could be like a very interesting combination with StoreLens and our platform and other vendors. So,
and what do you see in robotics? What are some of the trends you see there? I mean, the typical thing is like, oh no, Terminator. So that's, you have that crew speaking about Terminator, and the others they're more like, I think you could marry more robots in the future, equal robot rights. It's like.
Yeah, I mean those things we go into more like very futuristic speculation. The kind of thing that could happen in 25 years or in 500 or never. So it's like,
but what do you see in more practical applications?
Well, the social robotics thing is really happening now, because speech synthesis has gotten so good that it works, and the recognition has gotten so much better as well. Only since Siri was introduced, it's really gone up. So our business is also depending on evolution in those other areas. And also AI is really like kicking in now in very interesting ways. I think one thing that would be really nice is having AI that has more of a memory, like the kind of text generating or speech generating AI. Those often have very, very short memory. They maybe remember what you said last sentence, but 3 sentences ago, it's just like it never happened. So I think that will be like the fact that they would know what happened in the recent past would really help.
So you could have like a Spanish-speaking robot friend that you hang out with.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of starting to exist. But those open conversations are also not so good yet.
No.
But that doesn't matter so much to our use case.
But
at
could
least.
you
We're
have
more,
a bank robber buddy robot that
Yeah,
goes and
the-
robs banks for you? Do you see that there's a risk in robots as well? Or a
I mean,
shoplifting robot
Yeah, there's risks
that goes in there and then
there's
steals?
risks in everything. I mean, I was about to say that we haven't seen any robot murders yet, but if you take all the drones and stuff, then
Yeah.
you know it's. But so far, it's all people that use it as a tool, right?
And what do you think in the stores? Not necessarily robots, but technology. What will be the new role of technology? Sort of, okay, there are connected cash registers, and so we know that, and there's alarms. But what new technologies and which new role do you think it will have?
From our end right now, we believe also that we will need to meet the customer's need of convenience. You know, you don't want to stand in line anymore. You want the simple stuff. So I think that will, of course, you want it to be easy. That we will, of course, see technology enabling that in a much bigger extent. But I also see from sort of more of an company perspective that we also believe that technology here can help us improve efficiency, improve profitability, because this will be a struggle going forward. That's why I talked about, you know, the great believe value, but at a lower cost share. And we believe tech can be a real enabler here. So those two perspectives.
But how do you weed out then? I mentioned vision or hallucination.
Yeah.
We get a lot of companies wanting to come in here, and it's going to be big, but they have nothing to prove for. And our parole here in the house is innovation with impact. Epicenter has, together with AMF, redefined this whole district, 500,000 square meters, right? There's different companies here than when we started. There's a lot of things coming out of here that are impactful. But then it's so difficult to see if it's Skype or Schmripe that are going to be big, or if it's Lady Gaga or Lady Fnaga in music.
Yeah, I'm happy I don't have your role then. That's going to be super difficult. For us, it's going to be more about seeing sort of what is the impact we feel they could have, what's the benefit for the customer.
But how do you test that?
Yeah, then we test that really, really small.
Yeah,
but also we sort of evaluate on complexity.
Yeah.
And what's the possible? Is it a long-term return of investments, or is it a shorter term?
Yeah.
And then we balance long and short. So we always have that sort of as a filter as well. So I think that's our approach.
Yeah.
But you do you, and
Yeah,
that's
no, but
going to be so hard.
first of all, we don't. If they don't, there's very few proof points.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily here from the beginning, but then we also test very, very rapidly. That's why we have the test store
and involve the
up here and so
customers
forth.
really, really fast and
Yeah.
early. Yeah.
But I think it's hard, right, to identify the exact technologies or companies that will win, that will work out in the end. But you can see these larger technological trends that will have an impact on society. Like the advent of 3D scanning and 3D printing and that kind of instant making technologies led to what I'm going to go there later and check it out in your store, like to being able to custom make pants for people, and the mobile phones and the sort of data trend leads to the possibility of your business. And then you have robotics, which works for us, and like we know that augmented reality will come. We don't know if it's going to be in 4 years or in 20, but it's going to be in our lifetime for sure. And then that will affect society on a level where, for instance, I truly believe that people, when they buy clothes in the future, those clothes might come with holograms, and people will pay more for the holograms than they will for the clothing, right? So it's going to have impact. It's impossible to know who's going to make the solutions that makes that happen, but these larger technological trends.
No, but I did something super cool with my 7-year-old, and parents, you may see this is shareware. I read up on Rome and on the Pope and on the Colosseum and gladiators and everything Roman Empire with her for 4 days, and she's like, oh, there's a lot of Rome right now. And then we went to Rome so she could be where she just read about them. And here comes the kicker. Then we put on the VR, so she actually saw the games at Colosseum. She could talk to Marcus Aurelius, and she can be in the same setting. I dare you to make a Rome quiz with her, 10 years from now, because she has been into that experience. And I think also if that could come into clothing, or if I can walk around and get feedback on things before I buy them, maybe that would trigger completely different things. Or hang out with the people that are making it in the process. So there's a lot of funky ideas out there, but at the same time, it's a really tough Monday where margins are pressured and customers are behaving weirdly. So when we come out of the pandemic, we look back at it 2 years, not from now, but from when it's over. Do you think this has been intrinsically bad or good for the retail industry? Hand on your heart here, we're among friends. Bad or good?
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
Definitely. I think that it has like really made us jump really far into the future. Exciting to see where it leads.
I'm not sure if I have I don't know as much about retail.
No.
So I don't have a really valid. I would
Go with my
here. I
answer.
would just be Killis
The answer is, of course, I'll ask my robot.
I definitely think it's going to be positive. You know, it's an eye opener for everyone, and you realize that, you know, all the convenience shopping are done online. So shopping physical must be just like a really great experience. So, and I think that's, you know, opened eyes at retailers.
I loved your passionate introduction about the store in London. It's like you come in there, and I think
there's unfortunately there's very few stores like that around. I mean, another good store is Dover Street Market, which is more like a museum. It's a curation of beautiful things, and it happens to be the best design in the world. But you know, you don't really go in there to shop. You go in there to just be part of it, and then before you even know it, as a consequence, you find something you like a lot, and you know, and maybe you visit the store online, and then you know, when you are in that kind of mode, and you get to know the retailer, maybe then that's where the transactions happens. But if you look at Ralph Lauren's website, it's awful. Like, it's such a bad experience compared to walking into the store. They definitely haven't created. It's impossible to create that world digitally. At least maybe they haven't tried, or they've failed.
But it's like Harry Potter, good book, bad computer game. You know what I mean? It's very often you have a DNA of something. Yeah. And if you look at Titanic, bad boat, good movie. You have that narrative that you're really good at, and I'm missing that a little bit before, at least pre-pandemic, in the stores. So in movies, you went from black and white movies to very simplistic to very long to much more advanced storytelling. But for me, the stores have been more or less the same, or creative within a context. Like the airlines are creative within a context. This is a non-smoking flight to London Heathrow. We stopped smoking 82, but they don't change around a lot. And now I see retailers are super brave in doing weird things. We had an ice cream bathtub with co-creating ice creams with Nix and doing the weirdest things in the store. But so many people interacted with it outside the stores. It was worth that weirdness and the line of people trying to get in and get this ice cream experience. Probably never happened before.
No, I think you need to see the stores as a place where you get people to buy online. So you basically invite them to be part of your brand, to get to know you, and to get to know what your brand is really about, and to, you know, educate and give a great experience. And then transactions, they're somewhere else.
So I'm running out of time here, but I'd like to hear what's most exciting right now.
I need a minute.
No, but starting out with
I guess just like Amer before, I'm quite excited about the metaverse. I'm interested in that and what that will be. It's so early on. It probably will be something, but yeah.
And how would you describe the metaverse? Amer started describing it.
It's like the internet, but in 3 dimensions, and much more than the internet. So you might go to the cinema with your friends in the metaverse, which would never happen. So it's hard to know what it will be. I mean, it's currently just a science fiction concept from a book called Snow Crash from the 80s, and then, but it's clear that it's happening. Like, I mean, Facebook went out last month and said that in 5 years they think they will not be considered a social media company. They will be considered a metaverse company.
Oh, I guess such like flashback from when the first time I heard about the internet, and I saw about some fax machines being able. Oh, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, we don't know. Like, but VR and AR is coming now. VR is already good and cheap, right? And it's going to get a lot better and cheaper. But it's happening. So.
And you are, and he is actually one of the world's best magicians. And you had a magic show where you projected a hologram on top of a robot that you built, and it became, from the robot, the head fell off, and it was a person on top of the machine.
Yeah, like a hologram head on top of a physical robot.
With an actress that then could speak as a robot and so forth.
Yeah.
I have to ask, because you're in robotics, do you think that robots will ever become smart and will they have consciousness?
I think so, but I wouldn't say any time frame.
No.
But I think intelligence is substrate independent. I don't think it will. I think it's possible. Yeah.
I'm very excited about our automatic deactivation of alarm tags. Like, I just know how much time staff spend putting alarm tags on clothes, and so if that could just be solved, and we're doing it very, very soon, and you can just check out and walk out with your clothes without going to the tills and avoid that. I think it's super exciting. And long term, I think also, what we're seeing with resale and what you mentioned about the new customer shopping vintage, I just think it's fantastic to see the younger generation has adopted to this.
But I heard something interesting about that. I have an 18-year-old friend, and she said, but you don't really get it. It's like you were wearing like Iron Maiden jackets to show that you belonged. We are environmental conscious, but not really as much as we say, because we want to show that we are also very conscious about these questions, because it's a subculture to be with the conscious guys and not with the idiots. So it's also things that signals that. Would you recognize that?
Oh, yes, definitely. But we've also interviewed customers. I get frustrated on this topic, actually, because we learned that the values are super important, but they want the companies to take the responsibility. Yeah. They don't want to pay for it. No. And if they're going to participate, they want to be incentivized. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, okay, but the future, hello, but so the values are there, but their actions don't align with that right now.
No, I thought that was quite fascinating to see.
And so I think that we have a lot to work on, because we need to make the offer so great that they think that the other way of doing it is just obsolete. So I think that's where we are as well.
And what's most exciting?
I think that you mentioned two really exciting things. I think the resale part is, it drives such a big commitment and engagement. I love the metaverse. I think I also said, when you said the Ralph Lauren's digital experience is better, I was thinking, like, wait until they move into the metaverse. Maybe it's not anymore. And I think that that's really exciting, because I also think that, like I mentioned before, who owns the customer relationship? And maybe now platforms taking over, like Amer also talked about on the retail day, you're going to be either a platform or a supplier to a platform, but what does that mean for the relationship? And maybe our relationship needs to look different. So what's the relationship? That I am super excited about.
Cool. I am very, very happy and grateful that you're here. My head is spinning. Also, the metaverse is very exciting. But I also think that your passionate leader style, I think that's a role model for a lot of people out there that should be doing more things. But, well, we have a day on Monday. Don't confuse the urgent for the important, and make sure that there's time for both. And I think that's a very important takeaway for the people that are actually doing many more things and coming out of this strange time successfully. So thank you very much for being up here. Do we have any questions?
We actually do. Look at this. We actually have a battery of questions, but I will choose some. First one to Kim. Like the retail industry right now is the one industry that invests the most in tech. Is that felt at Weekday? If so, what are your main focus right now?
I think that we're investing in it because we need to, of course, making this shift towards improving the experience for the customers. And I think that I showed you a couple of examples of what we're investing in, like the body scan jeans, for example. Big investments, but that's also, like I mentioned before, why we need to balance sort of both redoing, but also rethinking the traditional way of doing. We cannot just add on. I think that's where we are. Was that answering it?
Yeah, great. So customer-focused technology investments.
Yes.
Great.
Good summary.
Erik, there's a lot of talk about how we should digitalize the store, but there's less talk about how we should humanize the digital flows. Is that something you're looking into, like building your product, or what's your reflection on that?
It's a great question to start with. I just think that as long as you start with the customer in the center and try to really make purposeful solutions for them, and really trying to help them in their shopping journey in store, I think then digital is an enabler. But always start with the customer, not with the tech solutions, because then you're applying something that the customer doesn't really want or need. So.
Great. And last one to Charlie then. what do you see that shouldn't be digitalized in the physical store? Like coming from the robotics tech perspective.
I think it depends on the type of store, really, and on the type of. I think there's so many types of experiences in stores. Like your example with Ralph Lauren, there's some types of stores when maybe nothing should be digitized. There's other types of stores when everything could be digitized. It really depends on what the customer wants to get out of it. So rather, the things that should be digitized are the things that that could be while keeping a really nice experience and making the experience better in many ways. Like not having to wait for 15 minutes to ask where the socks are just because someone needs to return this thing, but just being able to ask the robot, where are the socks? And now it's there. Like saving time for everyone. And yeah, I'm not sure if that answered it.
Yeah, and the customer focused, the things that create values for customers.
Yeah,
they should be digitalized.
Exactly.
Go. We have some more questions, but we can save them for later and have them announced in our thank you letter that will go out afterwards.
Okay, we are getting towards the end, so thank you very much for sharing. And that's also something I love with what the pandemic has done, from the sort of the quality of conversations you have socially to how sharing people have been, rather than being, this is mine and we're in a silo, this is secret and we're in stealth mode. Now people are like, I'm having these things, what can we do with it? And I think that's a very powerful thing to have in our village here in the Epicenter Store. So thank you very much for contributing.
Thank you.
Thank you. And for me, I think it's super exciting that people are back physically, that people are hanging out, they're hugging, respectfully so, and they are starting to do much more business. We've seen the uptake being just tremendous the last 2 to 4 weeks here, and very welcome to come by if you haven't been here yet. We try, under our parole, innovation with impact, to create the best soil for people wanting to do things together. And the way we see it is that if you're in a cluster or in a village, it would be before, where everybody helps each other out and you can drive on each other's strength, the village becomes more prosperous. So when we started building this village, which is the whole district here, 500,000 square meters, and now there's everything from sort of Google and Amazon and Microsoft and Spotify and iSettle, and all of these companies are sitting very close to each other, together with leading industries wanting to transform, change makers, scale-ups, experts and others. It becomes something very unique. And what's new for us is that we're building clusters. So we're going to build a sustainability cluster, an AI cluster. We already have a future of retail cluster. We have a real estate cluster. And when you start combining that, what would AI and sustainability be for retail or real estate? It becomes even more powerful. So if you want to come join that conversation, you're very welcome to come join that with us. Thank you very much for being here with us today. Linus can still take comments, questions, or also you can book you if you want to have a tour around here and have a look for yourself.
Definitely. Just come by or reach out at linus@epicenterstockholm.com.
Linus@epicenterstockholm.com.
We have another thing we should bring up. Next retail talk is on the 28th of October, and you will all get an invitation sent out.
And what are we going to speak about then?
Then the focus will be on AI for retail.
AI for retail. Okay, stay tuned. Thank you very much for being with us here today, and thank you for being with us here today.